the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 will please come to order. The time is about 8 minutes past 2 o'clock, and I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Good afternoon, everyone. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Also, as a reminder to all meeting attendees seeking parking validation for today's meeting, please be sure to scan the QR code located on the back table near the chamber's entrance to claim your discount. If you do not already have a Metropolis account, you will need your license plate number to set up the account in advance of receiving your discount. Please be sure to complete this prior to the end of today's meeting, as the QR code will be removed at the conclusion of the meeting. Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schlepper. Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Turner is absent at the moment. Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Castleberry.
Here.
Council President Miller.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much, and Councilmember Jones will not be able to attend this afternoon's meeting. Is there a motion to excuse his absence?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Councilmember Jones's absence. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion is adopted. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody signed in?
Lou?
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, talking about today's agendas. I really feel sad, but unfortunately it's true. The financial burdens coming up upon all of us in Cuyahoga County. Why we cannot do anything last decade or 2 decades ago if we really seriously consider valuable, I'm talking about the inmates' well-being and the workers' well-being in the building I call Injustice Center. Why? Why we have to wait till now? Economy has not been in our favor. Our budget has been shrunk because of the state budget legislation and the federal budget legislation. Why we have to wait for that long? Now, that's the same thing for 2227 Payne Avenue. Why we couldn't have the elevator installed, or why we had to pick a location already lack maintenance and repairing in the last decade or 15 years ago to renovate. Now people have to suffer from the consequences, either their well-being or their financial hardships, even life and death. When can we be more proactive? When can we do things without worrying about the little moments of those political pressures? Why we have to give in? Why we cannot do the right thing for everybody? When government, doesn't matter which branch, you are here for everybody, staying here, working here. So if you want to really take the job seriously, think twice. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion for today's meeting.
Thank you very much. And it would be useful if we move the executive session to be the next order of business and proceed with it. May I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of amending the agenda to make the executive session the next item of business, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. And all meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the open meetings laws. Under that law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside of the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, the council will go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending or imminent court action. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we ask all those not specifically needed for the executive session to remain in council chambers. Council members will convene in the adjacent Committee Room A and will re-enter the meeting once the executive session has ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending or imminent court action?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and that motion requires a roll call.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Turner is absent at the moment. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Ms. Simon is absent. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry?
Yes.
Council President Miller?
Yes.
The motion carries.
So the motion has been approved, and we will now move into our executive session. The executive session has been completed. We're now back in open session in the committee of the whole. And the next item on the agenda is Resolution 2026-0094.
Resolution 2026-0094, authorizing the issuance of bonds in the amount not to exceed $984,540,000 for the purposes of costs of capital projects for county corrections center facilities, which shall include the cost of including acquiring land and interest in land, constructing, reconstructing, rehabilitating, remodeling, renovating, enlarging, improving, furnishing, and equipping facilities with related site improvements and appurtenances thereto.
That item is now before us, and it's time for any additional presentation that we have from the administration.
County Council, Bob Franz, Managing Director at Stiefel, County's financial advisor. So I'll go through a couple of slides and illustrations of current thoughts. And I thought Eric was joined, but I'll kind of go through this again. So the background and context, just additional, we've gone through this a couple of times already, but, history of the 0.25% implemented in 2007, expires in 2027. It was extended for another 40 years. Currently funds the debt obligations for the Convention Center, Hilton Hotel, a small amount for the Cavs. All that ends in 27. And then also funds general fund operations, as we talked about before. A driving calendar item, a driving issue for this financing and for the project in itself is the June 4th maturity of $41.5 million of notes that the county sold to fund the preliminary expenditures. And we'll get into that, kind of how we're funding that and some thoughts there to make sure that we're all thinking about this together and being compliant. And especially, the item there at the bottom, the Ohio Revised Code Chapter 153 meeting, just acknowledging that happened yesterday. And which approved the plans and specifications for the jail project. There's a ton on this page, and I tried to make this as detailed and concise as I could, so I apologize. But wanted to make sure that we're being very diligent about how we're looking at these dollars. And this whole page has to do with the $41.5 million of notes that mature on June 4th. So we have the $41.5 million of principal that comes due. The interest associated with it is $1,758,850.69. So on June 4th, we have to come up with $43,258,850.69. We've spent a considerable amount of time looking at when money was spent, when expenses were incurred. So wanted to show the existing balance of funds here, $17.5 million. I won't go through all the dollars, I'll just round it. $17.5 million of funds that remain in the account that have not been expended yet or incurred yet, or any work related to those. $14.9 million, almost $15 million, funds that have been spent, so cash out the door. And then another $8.9 million of expenses incurred prior to April, but not yet paid. So it's a little bit confusing, but want to be very, very transparent of how we're looking at this, which is what remains, what has been spent out the door, and what has occurred, expenses that have occurred at the site but not paid. So the way we're looking at this is kind of in in that vein. The plan for funding the notes. We spent a lot of time thinking about this and trying to be as compliant as we can. And I apologize if I'm mixing words or mincing words, but this is how my mind works on this stuff. We are looking to present the council a internal note borrowing the next meeting on April 12th for about $25.6 million, which funds a couple of things. It funds the 14.8 of funds that have been spent to date. It funds the $8.9 million of expenses that have occurred, that are having been incurred but not yet paid, and also the $1,758,000 of interest. So it's important that we get this funding source secured, and we've been talking with the treasurer to make sure that this is all doable, because the other option that we've unfortunately come up with is we either do it this way or we just write a check. And that comes out of the general fund balance, which clearly we don't want to do. So if there's a way to do that, that's what we want to avoid. The remaining $17.5 million that goes back to the available funds in that cash balance that have not been spent. We will continue to spend those on project costs going forward. And then, what has been a driving variable for our schedule and still remains is the maturity of that note on June 4th. So we are still looking to refund at least that $17.5 million portion of note principal with bonds prior to June 4th. Otherwise, we'll have to find another $17.5 million. So that's still a driver of the schedule. It's, if we think about the conversations we've had before, the whole $41.5 million were included in the bonds. So we're trying to minimize the exposure to the county as best we can. And again, I do apologize that there's a lot of numbers. I'll do my best to talk through these and kind of conclude with a calendar after this. But, on the top here, it's just a very simple table of the project costs that Jeff and Nicole English have gone through for the GMP and the other county costs related to the project. And then on the bottom part, we kind of get into how we're funding the project and the project costs here with, what we've talked about versus a substitute that I believe will be in front of you for this purpose. So what we're looking to fund is the total project budget of $894,260,000, comprised of the GMP and the other costs. So if we go down to that kind of table on the right, which is labeled breakdown of remaining needs. So project budget of that $894 million, funds spent to date, that again, we go back to that previous page of that $14.9 million. So we can't refund those. Expenses incurred but not yet spent, that $8.9 million. Again, just trying to be as conservative as we can here. So we have a funding need for the project of $870,333,270. So just want to be really cognizant of how we're coming up with that and walk through this.
So to summarize what you've done here, the $894,260,000 is the project budget, and then the sum of the other two items, which is just under $24 million, backs out anything related to funds that have already been spent on the project. Either what's already been spent or for work that's already been done but not yet paid. And so those two items are backed out of the bond sale, so that the bond sale is operating on a prospective only basis. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, Bob.
Councilman.
Question, that 17.5 million, isn't that part of the cease and desist thing and possible illegal use of funds that the state's coming in to look at?
I will defer to an attorney on that one.
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, that's still cash we have on hand, so it hasn't been used for anything yet, so we haven't misspent anything in the eyes of 15336 if it turns out to be applicable.
But you're looking to use the money, correct?
After the committee acted, which was yesterday.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify through the law director, so the money was actually received prior to the meeting, but has not been spent.
Correct.
Okay.
Please proceed.
So then what I'm attempting to do on this page is show the previously presented, as we've talked about a couple of times, funding the 910 budget. And when I used that, we didn't know it was 910 260. So if you're doing the math, there's a $260,000 difference. That's because I just used 910 even back on March 24th. So that's the difference there. So trying to show the difference between previously presented and then the current substitute language and the amount. So we're not touching the 41.5 in its total. We're just doing the 17.5. So funding the remaining needs of 852,760,000. So again, those two gray boxes, 870,333,270. And trying to just connect those a little bit visually, so it's clear of keeping those funds that of the 14.8 and the 8.9 separate, and then the funding the capitalized interest, or sorry, the note interest that'll be done through either the note or the cash payment. The capitalized interest did increase, and I'll get to that in a second, by 26 million. So the total funding need went from 984 million and change to 969. So we did get a benefit there because we're borrowing less because of the note of 15 million, and then we just rounded it to the nearest, just dropping off that $1,000, 286 to a nice round even 969,400,000 for a not to exceed amount. The capitalized interest amount was increased to provide capacity and affordability for the other piece of legislation that is in the committee for the courts. Not that we're looking to talk about that or do anything, but that's what it's there for. So this provides the ability to do this. It does not mean we are going to do this. That was just the mechanics to allow for the bonds to be issued and combined kind of within the 0.25%. And then just simply, we're still, like I said, we're still looking to close by June 4th or June 3rd, the day before the notes mature. That's still a driver of the schedule. Kind of working backwards from there. We're here today looking to talk to rating agencies and do the process for a pricing in the week of the 18th, and then that allows us to close right before that note matures on June 4th. And that's what I have.
Councilman Sweeney, followed by Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, Ms. Brown, how are you?
Hello?
Just, we've all talked about it. When's the date then they categorize what our bonds are going to be? Do they, right before we go to sale, they tell us we're AAA or we're up, we're down? What's that day?
I would say, it's usually a week after we talk to them. They'll provide us the rating back. With this, that might be a little over a week. So it just depends on their availability, their calendars. We haven't had those discussions with them yet, but
And through the chair, how does that happen? You just say, we'd like to go out to bonds, and they internally decide, or they ask for a bunch of data from us, so we negotiate back and forth? How would that work?
so it's a very dialogue-driven process. Some people call them rating presentations. I like to call them rating discussions. So they'll ask a lot of questions ahead of time to let us know what we should be prepared to talk about. We know what we need to talk about. A lot of discussion on the project delivery, cost mitigation, all that stuff, general fund balances, operations, budget versus historic, any, basic diligence items such as litigation and other issues that the law department will be involved in. So these are usually about an hour to an hour and a half discussions where we give them the offering documents, the background of the transaction, audits, year-end reports, depending on the time of the year, quarter reports, that type of stuff, so that they can kind of boil everything down. And then they take about a week to kind of condense their thoughts. They then present, so we'll during that hour and a half conversation, we'll talk with one or two analysts. And then they condense it all, go back to a committee of other analysts in their company that have experience with similar, general obligation credits for counties across the country. And the analyst has to then pretty much defend what they suggest.
Got it.
Based on their criteria and everything else, and then they come back to us with the ultimate rating.
And through the chair, thank you for that.
Probably more than
Very,
what you want.
no, I appreciate that. Now I have a clearer picture. Basically, they do a super deep dive on all the components of the county business and structure independently, and then on the project itself. And then it's like survey says, and boom, they come up with something. And through the chair, just on the ratings, is it, because once in a while you hear, oh, the airport got downgraded, the county got down, just out of the blue. Was it all project origin? Or, I didn't mean to say the airport. We love the airport. They got upgraded. Is that like an annual thing they come out with it, or is it project driven?
So it's both. So they have the ability to call us up at any time and say, you know what, let's chat. They usually don't do that unless they have a reason.
Got it.
Either a good reason or a bad reason. If things are status quo, they kind of just say, okay, yep, check, things are looking good, no follow-up questions necessary. So that can happen, and then when you do a big project, or every time you do a project or a bond deal, they do look at the whole holistic credit profile of the county or the city in the airport's case. So there's more to it at that point, but.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Gallagher.
Welcome again. What's the total cost of this project? Not what we're borrowing, what's the total cost?
And
Anybody? I mean, it seems to be a moving target, and I'm just trying to get a final cost.
I mean, 894, 260.
All in?
I'll defer to the project on this one. Uncle Jeff.
Good
Uncle
afternoon.
Jeff, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you.
I saw you walking up. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I wish it were true. It's Jeff Applebaum, Project Management Consultants. So the total cost, and we're going to present this again in a few minutes, but the total budget for the project, because the costs haven't been incurred yet, but the budget for the project is $894,260,000.
I don't want budget. I don't want budget, and you know that. I want total cost, all in. You're going to put me in this brand-new car for how much?
No more than $894,260,000, not including the land. that was
Well,
purchased.
the land, what are we putting this in air?
You got to add the land to that. 38 million more.
38. Well, that's kind of a big number to miss.
But to miss. Well, it's the two numbers. I didn't miss it. I told you, it's those two numbers together. And then, but we believe that we're still going to be able to bring it in beneath that budget. But that is the budget, and part of that is based on the guaranteed maximum price, which is $314 million. That's the guaranteed maximum price from Gilbane that we'll talk about, and then we have our costs on top of that.
Right. And your history of coming in under budget and on time's pretty good. If not 100% with us.
With you, it's excellent.
It's excellent. It is excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But we'll come back and talk.
Okay, I didn't know you were going to talk about that. Do we need the county prosecutor to give us the okay to move forward?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, we have done as he's asked, in that we've complied with the spirit of 15336 by holding the meeting yesterday, where there were 3 of the 4 votes approved the plans and specs.
Right.
And so going forward is all what we're talking about today
Right.
in this bond issue, is
Right.
funds that happened after that.
Okay, the question was,
my opinion.
do we need a letter from the county prosecutor? He's got to sign off on these bonds.
You know, we haven't used the prosecutor to sign off on bonds in the past.
I just talked to him. And he said he has to give us a letter guaranteeing there won't be any lawsuits. He can't do that. Are we stuck in the mud there, or do we just ignore that and move forward without the prosecutor's blessing? And if we do move without the prosecutor's blessing, who's going to take that responsibility? Because I know what the prosecutor's saying. He's saying, I can't guarantee there's no lawsuits coming, and I'm not going to be held responsible, which falls back to this council. Are we in a bit of a quandary here?
Mr. Chairman of the councilman, as far as these bonds are considered, I do not believe so. It's my opinion that we're okay going forward with
Okay,
the
so
bonds.
could you write me up a letter and guarantee there won't be any lawsuits, and I'll be happy to move forward with it?
Nobody can ever guarantee there will never be lawsuits.
On that very specific point, may I?
Yes, you may.
He asked a very specific question. Does the prosecutor need to sign off for these bonds to go forward?
In my opinion, Councilman, no.
Thank you.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you. So as long as we're on that subject, I was going to ask our staff or council president, whoever, do we have a letter from the prosecutor that says, go ahead and go forward?
Not at this time.
And if I could follow up, Mr. President?
Yes.
So are we borrowing money for this whole project, correct?
We are borrowing money for the project, except for those monies that have been expended.
Okay, and the sheriff's headquarters, correct? With the jail?
If that's part of the 9, which I believe it is,
I believe
part
it
part of
is.
the 894,260, yeah.
Does the sheriff have to okay the movement of his headquarters to Garfield?
Mr. Chairman, that is a provision of 307.11. I will point out, though, that the sheriff has had staff full-time directed to this project for the last 3 years. So while I don't know that the question has ever been directly asked, he certainly has implied that he's in favor of the move.
Okay, but the question was, do we have a letter from the sheriff okay in this move?
We do not, but
Okay,
that decision isn't ripe. We're not moving his office yet.
Correct. So we're going to borrow money to build a building. We don't have the express permission from the authority within the law in the state of Ohio to move his people out there. But we're going to borrow money for that?
As soon
That's
as
the
we're-
plan, yes. Mhm.
I think that's your question.
I would say as soon as the law department and everyone is comfortable in doing so, then yes.
So when do we anticipate moving forward on pursuing the bonds?
Well, we would be looking to price the bonds the week of May 18th.
And I would assume the sheriff will have at that time signed off.
Now. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I need to correct something I said earlier. I know the law director will have to sign off on the non-litigation cert that goes to bond counsel, and he has indicated that he won't act without the prosecutor acting.
I thought that,
Yeah,
but it
I'm
wasn't
sorry. I
getting that.
apologize.
That's fine, I understand this is a little convoluted. But now I'm stuck on how do we borrow money, $1 billion, when we don't have proper authority, unless you're telling me, and I don't know, I haven't spoken to the sheriff since he filed his lawsuit, and I don't anticipate I will until that's settled. But until we have that authority, we're going to borrow money for a building that may or may not be built. I'm just wondering, could you tell me what kind of discussion you're going to have with the bonding authority over a proposal such as that?
Well, I think we can't proceed until we have all the steps necessary done that we need to.
Okay, so we anticipate he will sign off on that.
I do, but
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, that was, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point?
I do.
Ms. Simon?
I just want to follow up. So if the scenario occurs where this passes, you go to the bond market, we issue bonds, and the sheriff does not sign off with his consent to move his office to Garfield, is there an opportunity for us to change these plans to take out the sheriff's headquarters? What would that do? I mean, if he never concedes to go, I think, what's that scenario look like? We pass this tonight?
I would have to ask the
I know, I
project-
don't
yeah.
expect you, Bob. You've been on the hot seat too much. I know, this is not your, but what's that scenario look like?
Nicole English, Public Works. So it would take a significant amount of work to do that, right? We have intertwined facilities based on all the work that we've been doing for the last 3+ years, including his team with us. So, I mean, things like the locker rooms are integrated. The fitness center is integrated. I mean, the building itself, you can't just chop it off and go. The first floor of the building is significantly integrated. So it would take a lot of work and a lot of money to do that.
To change the plans?
Yes.
What would it do from the bond standpoint? If we go to the market based on the current plans and then we have to change the plans, how does it impact that aspect? Bob?
When we issue the bonds, when we issue the bonds, we, the county, have to have a reasonable belief that we're going to spend the money, or we can't issue the bonds. So things do happen during the construction process. But as long as we have evidence that we can point to of, we reasonably expected to spend these monies within the 3-year temporary period and everything, okay, that's great. Things will change, and as long as we spend the money on the allowable use, then we're okay. So we can't fund, payroll or things like, it's got to be a capital-related item, that type of stuff. And there's all sorts of extenuating circumstances and stuff, but generally speaking, we would have to spend the money on capital.
So the campus, the central campus, if we spend it on that, Sans Sheriff Office, that would be okay from the bond standpoint. We're not in trouble. Nicole, I get your point. It would be a nightmare to go back to the drawing board and reconfigure that part of the building. Nice. Okay. We should have an alternative plan then in the works, just in case. I mean, this first came to light in the committee when I asked the question in the Justice Affairs Committee whether the sheriff had, given his consent to move. That was a prerequisite unequivocally, and the answer was no. And I asked, are you going to give it? And it was a non-answer. So we're in a spot now whether we're going to concede to whatever his requests are, reasonable, unreasonable to do that, or I would suggest having a backup plan. What would it look like if we don't have that there? Instead of, just as a minor backup, not a major, reconfiguring. But I think we better be ready to do that. That's only my comment.
Any other questions or comments? So, the next thing would be to consider the substitute, which would align the legislation with what Bob Franz presented today, so that that we're only borrowing the money that's going to be used prospectively, and it does not include anything for that pays what we've already paid or pays what we're going to pay for work that's been done in the past. So my question is there a motion to accept the substitute and make it part of the legislation in front of us? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the proposed substitute. Is there any discussion on the substitute? The clerk will call the roll on the substitute.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Turner is absent. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry?
Yes.
Council President Miller?
Yes.
The motion carries with 9 council members voting in the affirmative.
Thank you very much. And next, the question would be to refer the resolution to the full council as substituted with recommendation for second reading suspension at tonight's council meeting.
So move to refer to the council meeting under second reading.
Second.
The motion is to refer the resolution to the full council for consideration for passage under second reading suspension at tonight's meeting. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Turner is absent. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry?
Yes.
Council President Miller?
Yes.
The motion carries with 7 voting in the affirmative and 2 casting dissenting votes.
Resolution is referred. Resolution 2026-0095.
Resolution 2026-0095, authorizing a revenue generating agreement with City of City of Euclid at a per diem rate of $234 through December 31st, 2026, and then increasing to $257 through the remainder of the contract term for inmate housing services in the total anticipated amount of $1,900,000 for the period May 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2027.
Thank you very much. And our intention on this piece of legislation, which was originally referred to the Committee of the Whole only because the Public Safety Committee did not take place when it would normally have taken place, so that we could have a Committee of the Whole. And questions were raised about this legislation. So what we would like to do is to refer this legislation to the full council for tonight's meeting, and then at the council meeting, we will re-refer the legislation to the Public Safety Committee. So do I have a motion to refer Resolution 2026-0095 to the full council with intent to refer the legislation at tonight's council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The resolution is referred to council for re-referral at tonight's council meeting. Resolution 2026-0110.
Resolution 2026-0110, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Gilbane Building Company dated April 23, 2024, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $752,353,406 to establish a guaranteed maximum price in the amount not to exceed $806,314,787 for a total contract value of $810,706,406 for design build services for the County Central Services Campus, to include the County Corrections Center and the offices of the County Sheriff, effective upon signature of all parties.
Jeff Applebaum, Project Management Consultants, just waiting for a screen to come up. And I want to address one issue. It was not something that I had necessarily intended to get into, but I think in light of the discussion, there's something that this council does have to be aware of. As you know, you've seen this process slide many times. There's something I haven't mentioned on this slide. Because I didn't think that it was actually controversial. But there's a fact that you need to know, which is in order for this project to proceed, we have to go to the ODRC, the state of Ohio, and a request has to be made to approve of our plans in Garfield Heights on that site. It happens in phases. Phase 1, May 20th, 2025, our current sheriff wrote to ODRC requesting approval of plans, not just for the jail, but the jail and the sheriff's administration, his headquarters, in Garfield Heights, according to plans. He requested the approval for these plans in Garfield Heights on May 20th, 2025. Based on that request that he was not only a part of, he made to move his headquarters to Garfield Heights as part of our plan. He then assigned, because we said, whoever you want, please put it on our group so we can continue the work. We continued to work throughout 2025 with his representatives, who are here, to plan not just the jail, but his sheriff's administration building. We get to January 5, 2026, when we have to get to the second phase approval. Another year's work. This sheriff wrote to the ODRC requesting once again approval of the plan to move not just the jail, but his headquarters, the Sheriff's Administration Building, to Garfield Heights. He signed the letter, he requested it, he assigned his people to this project, whoever he wanted, and we continued to work, again, month after month after month, developing the project in Garfield Heights that he requested of the state of Ohio. No one but the sheriff signs that letter to request moving not just this jail, but his headquarters to Garfield Heights. When I hear that maybe there's an issue about signing off on moving to Garfield Heights, it gets me a little agitated because we've only worked for 2 years, employed hundreds of people, spent millions of dollars on the plan that he himself sent letters to the state of Ohio requesting approval to do. I think that's an important point.
Mr. Chairman, on that point?
Councilman Sweeney, followed by Gallagher.
Thank you. Mr. Applebaum, I appreciate your passion, but did the administration tell you that you're the point person to argue this point?
No,
Your tone is, I don't think, appropriate for what's happening right now. You're here to report, right?
yes,
And I'd prefer you just reporting and
I'll report. I've worked 2 years of my life on this
you've been an
project, but this-
outstanding private partner with all
I
the things I've been.
apologize for my tone. I apologize for my tone.
You don't have to apologize to me.
Imagine I just said that as calmly as I could.
You want to go this way?
apologize. I am sorry.
Whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Are you okay with how he presented, Mr. President?
The chair?
I'm not going to comment on that. Councilman Gallagher
Thanks for sticking
is
up for
next.
me.
Mr. Epstein, I love your passion. And we've been shoulder to shoulder in this process for over what now, 7 years? So it is frustrating, sir. It's unbelievably frustrating. A $550 million jail because of ineptness, ignorance, uneducated, God knows what. We're now at $1 billion for a jail. So it is frustrating, and I see, and I appreciate your passion. Are you, to go to my question, so you're suggesting that the sheriff writing these letters is his full acceptance and we can move forward? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not the lawyer on the, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not the lawyer on this project. You know what, and Councilman Sweeney is right. I'm just stating facts. I stated facts. He sent the letter, he asked for approval. We worked in reliance on going to Garfield Heights, his staff was assigned. He sent a letter a year later, he requested approval, his staff was assigned, we act in reliance. I say that with no passion, just with facts. And you are exactly correct, and I apologize.
But point made, point accepted. And again, I love working with you. You're the best. But this is such a frustrating situation that we find ourselves in. And we have to be careful, obviously, because there has been public warnings that the council potentially and the executive team could be in harm's way as far as returning dollars. And I know how delicate that is. But I'm concerned that we're going to go to another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and hit another roadblock. And then what do we do?
Well,
And I know delay is going to cost us money.
Well, this delay, and I, as I testified or talked about yesterday at the 153 meeting, up until now, we've talked about delays and we've talked about impact. And the one thing I want to emphasize, because I've spoken with you in improper tones, but I've never lied to you. And I will tell you, we're at the brink right now. We have a GMP, and we have no more time if we're going to, for a whole series of reasons. I don't want to have to get into them. I talked about them yesterday, but we're at that point now. So, yes, am I a little passionate about it? Yes, I am. And I will apologize again. I shouldn't have done that.
And thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to tell you, Jeff, I know there's delays, but it's not up here. And we all know that. It's not up here. So when you got pedal to the metal and we have open issues, I've got a concern that we're going to get ourselves in Dutch again, and I don't want to do that. I put 7 years of my life into this project, and I want it to be successful. And I've watched it go the other way so quickly, and nobody doing nothing for 3 years and 4 months. And now we got to hurry? And I got a prosecutor telling me one thing, a law director telling me another. I don't know where to go. But if I have to follow somebody's advice, I'm going to follow the prosecutor's advice, because he's our attorney. So, but believe me, I appreciate everything you've been through, sir. You've done a fabulous job, and I know the frustrations that you've had to deal with, not just with us collectively, but the atmosphere and COVID and everything else. We got through that. I'm hopeful we can get through this. Thank you.
I've never had a frustration with council, by the way. But let me now actually go and tell you what I came here to tell you.
So before you do,
Yes. Sorry.
Councilwoman Turner had a comment or a question.
Thank you. I'm glad you were ready to turn the corner, because I was going to usher it along myself. Madam Clerk, am I on the record?
Let the record reflect that Ms. Turner and Ms. Simon are in attendance.
All right, thank you.
I've been in attendance. No? Oh, okay.
Well, thank you for the apology. I was just going to respond to my colleague's initial statement. I don't want to be a part of disrespecting anybody. So even when you're referring to the sheriff, if you could call him by his name, not him and
I understand
his letter.
that,
And I know
and I'll
there
apologize to the sheriff, too. It's just that,
opportunities for you to do that. And then I was going to ask you, because you led with that, so you're most upset about that, or what's the actual purpose of your presentation today?
to answer some questions that I was asked to answer.
Okay,
Okay,
let's get back to
That was not the
that.
purpose of my presentation. Once again, I wanted to give you some additional facts. Okay. So, here's part of what I needed to talk about. So I think there was, because we had to, as you recall, do this pretty quickly, I think we had to go through some numbers that may be a bit confusing on the resolution. So I want to talk about 3 numbers on the resolution, and I want to explain what they mean, because it's not as apparent, or it requires some explanation. So, because we have a contract amount, we have a GMP, and we have a total additional sum that you're authorizing, or we're asking you to authorize. So let me go through these numbers. So, and what you see on the right is how the original resolution was modified. And there's 3 numbers there. And those 3 numbers were simply all decreased by $4 million, because from the time that we presented the resolution to you, we were able to reduce costs by $4 million because of continuing efforts on value engineering. And I'll give you the list of what we got accepted and what we did. But I think to understand these numbers, I want to make a point to you, because there's 2 different numbers that are there's one that's 4 million and one that's 4.3. They're close, so I just want to explain this. If you look at the bottom chart, the box on the left, the original contract that you approved with Gilbane, the design builder, the original contract value was $33,353,000. That was way back when. And that consisted of 2 components. One component was the pre-construction amount of $3,353,000. And that's pre-con, and that is a payment that we made for early services. It's not part of the GMP, but it is part of the total contract value. And you know, I'll tie this together in a minute. Then what happened is, and what the contract said you're going to be paid $3,353,000 for pre-construction services, And then there was a box in the contract for early release work. You're authorized to spend up to $30 million for this so-called early release work, which would have been things like demolition, as we talked about, site clearing, and there were some activities there that was the early release work. Hadn't been spent yet, but it was an authorization. So that contract had a total value of $33,353,000. Then we had amendment number 1. Amendment number 1 did a few different things, but you recall that's when we said that we were going to push back the GMP date. We were going to save $7.5 million in finance cost, but we have to authorize some more pre-construction, some more early release work. For example, putting in the steel mill order was one that I gave you the example of, and there are a few other details. That amendment number 1 had a value of $25 million, of which there was another $1,038,000 of pre-con and another $961,000, which ultimately they were authorized, but that would also be basically part of the GMP. That would be a prepayment of something that would then be assumed in the GMP. So when we proposed the original GMP, it was the original contract value. The contract value then would be the pre-construction services and everything in the GMP. So if you take a look at the bottom line here, what you would have had is you would have had pre-construction services of $4,391,000. That's not part of the GMP because that was already paid, but that's not part of the guaranteed maximum price. You have then the GMP, which is $802,314,787, and that gives you the GMP, which is what we're asking approval for. But then you have the total contract amount because you still have the pre-construction services that was part of the contract. So what happened up above, just to be very clear, is originally these numbers were all $4 million more because originally we had not yet taken $4 million out. So when you take the $4 million out, that's how you get to the numbers in the substitute you get my mind. The substitute proposal here, legislation is, so that the new total contract amount is $806,706,408. And the GMP, which is $4 million, that $4.3 million less, because the pre-con service isn't part of it, is the $802,314,787. But then the amount of additional money that has to come into the project to pay for it is the $748,353,406. So to get to the GMP of $802,314, because part of that's already been paid or already been authorized, we need the additional $748,353,406. And when you add the pre-construction to that, that gives you the total contract value of $806,706. I hope that, I mean, I know there are a lot of numbers, but I hope that explains it. And if you have questions, I can answer those if that's not clear.
Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you. That's the Jeff Applebaum I know, just very detailed. And I apologize for the tone I had with you.
Well,
And I just wanted to,
necessary.
I followed everything you said there, and it's crystal clear now.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And does that complete your presentation, or is there more?
The only other thing I want to tell you, you want me to sit down. The only other thing I want to tell you.
I don't know,
I'm teasing.
I'm just trying to process into questions and substitutes.
I understand. And as we told you before, and this was to Councilman Gallagher's question, the overall budget, which now, and I told you last time it was $16 million less than what we had previously. So that is the GMP at 802, the owner's budget at the 91,945. So the total project budget is 894,260 beyond the land acquisition. Okay, that's the total budget. And the only other thing I will show you, and I know that we, that's just the breakdown of the budget. I showed you this before. If there's questions, we can come back. And then the only other thing I want to tell you, if you want to know where that $4 million in savings came from, at your leisure, you can look at this list. I'm sure you don't have specific questions. It's a lot of detail. Nicole, anything else? Okay, unless there's any questions, I think I will retire. I mean, from this meeting at least.
So
Else?
I think it is an appropriate time to consider whether to incorporate the substitute into the legislation.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
we have, go ahead, Hauser, then I.
Before we do, Mr. President, I'm not sure if this is Jeff and Nicole. So before we had this meeting today, I sent a request about an actual transportation plan. I think it's extremely important that we take into account the fuel, the vehicles, if we're not able to get inmates to court on time, and the liability factors all around that. Do we have an actual transportation plan for this new facility?
Yeah, Nicole English, Public Works. I apologize. I was trying to work with Molly to get a meeting on your calendar, and as you can imagine, things the last week had been pretty chaotic in trying to get meetings in order. I have been working with our team back there, A.W. Christopher and Lieutenant Jenke, on the specifics. There is some things security-wise that we wouldn't share necessarily the whole policy in public, because logistics, and we don't have the plan to a T, because again, we're not moving for 3 years. They are working on it in the operations study. We do account for the staff needed. We also, in our project budget, account for the additional vehicles that need to be purchased to do that. So I have some of the information for you. We've been working offline with you, with our team, that we want to get with you on a meeting to explain all of it so you can understand it. But know that the final plan has not been detailed to the T, because we are still years away, but they are far enough along that we can have a conversation. So I apologize. I know we were trying to get with you last week, and it just didn't happen. So I can get you those numbers. But know that in the operations study I presented, either last time I was here or the time before that, the costs for the staff of the transportation is included in that.
Please get us that information.
Will
The
do.
council as a whole, I know we use Philly as a model. They've had a lot of issues with the distance. If I can see, if we can see an actual transportation plan, whatever version you guys have, be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and just to, some of your colleagues went on tours with us to jails, and so we've asked, every time we went to visit a jail, we would ask that question, because it was important to us to understand, because that's something we don't do today. And about half of them transport in some fashion, and we got lots of tips from them, and just, this is how it works. It's been fine. Nashville was one that had separate jails forever, and they've done it. And so we've been learning from all of them as well, so
I took
happy
none,
to
I
do
took
that.
none of those tours. If you
Yes,
can actually
that's
give me
why.
a plan, I appreciate it,
Yep,
Nicole.
will do.
Thank you.
On that point,
Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you. We talked about the transportation, but we talked about individuals that are getting out of jail and the families to come visit, and the partnership with RTA.
Correct.
And we've been talking about that. We know it's coming for a
Yep.
while. Is there any concrete? Is the bus 22 taking a left going down here?
Yeah.
Do we have part of the plan? I know we have a turnaround or something.
I don't have the number off my head, but there is a bus route that comes down transportation. We have worked with RTA for right now to come into the site and go around the roundabout that exists. We're hopeful that we can get them all the way to the building, but at least right now to
Yeah.
the roundabout inside the, once you pull off transportation, the site plan, I don't think we have on this presentation, but you've all seen it a lot, that little roundabout that exists on our site. So they have agreed to that for the bus that heads downtown, and then the bus that's coming back from downtown, and it heads up Transportation Boulevard every half an hour on the normal peak and an hour on the off-peak. But I can get you the bus number. But for right now, that's what we've worked with them on.
We've advanced that a little bit more in comparison to the transportation.
And we've worked with them on the actual design to be sure their bus can turn around and has the right radii and all that inside our site.
Perfect. I was just
Yes.
checking because I haven't got that update in a while.
We do need to get
Thank
back
you.
with them. We owe them a meeting after these plans are finalized, this current round of plans. We'll get back with them, but we have been in contact with RTA,
Yeah, so,
ongoing.
Thank you. All the confidence in the world, Nicole.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you. In terms of the transportation, I've disagreed with the site location at the beginning of this whole endeavor for a lot of reasons, and one of them is going to be the nightmare budgetarily. You're all going to, and I'm not blaming Nicole, it's just the cost of the vehicles and transporting and having a mini jail right at the Justice Center, which we're going to have, is you guys are going to have to face this. It's going to be extraordinary. We had a site, obviously, very close to the Justice Center, which would have alleviated a lot of this expense. It's going to be very difficult, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But I want to bring Jeff back.
Can I just make one point on that? I do
yes.
just want to say, when the committee voted, the old steering committee did vote to separate the two buildings.
know.
So no matter what,
I know.
there was going to be some form of transport. It's just a matter of, was it going to be
Distance.
2 miles or 10
I know.
miles? So I will see some of those costs were at that point
I get
needed,
it.
buses,
I know.
et cetera.
I know,
But-
Nicole. It was just, that was outside of the, almost at the edge of the radius. That made sense, the Garfield site. And 480, 77 on a good day, it's
Understood.
good show. I'm sorry. Anyways, Jeff Applebaum, do you mind coming back up? Thanks, Nicole. Nicole, thank you for all your work and your presentation yesterday. So you showed us the reduction, the list of items that enabled us to have a reduction in the actual GMP. Some of it is on the sheriff's side, I saw, like a roof or something retracted. Did I not look at that correctly?
So I think one of the items is the generator, is that the one, or not the generator, the mechanical?
Yes.
So there's mechanical systems that are on the roof. One of the proposals is like a screening that would go so you don't see them as much. So that is a value engineering that we took off, that is on the ed alternate list if we can afford it. It's really just a,
No, I'm good with that, but the question is, if it involves the sheriff, are the people in the room, and do the people in the room include the sheriff's people? And do they know about this reduction, and did they say, yes, this is fine?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
At every
straight
step
up.
of the
yeah.
way.
No emotion, but yeah, they say these,
In the most boring of tones, those gentlemen are in every one of these conversations, and as we go through these lists, we talk about it with them, and we get their views on it, and they participate in all of, they're part of the team.
Yep.
We don't do anything without the sheriff's
okay,
people.
just want to make that clear, for my benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? So, I've been informed that the substitute is not ready. So, the substitute can be adopted at the council meeting on either second or third reading. The timeline for this legislation is that to keep us on schedule, it needs to pass by May the 12th. So it means that this item can go the full 3 readings. So I would ask if there's a motion to refer Resolution 2026-0110 to the full council for second reading tonight and third reading on May 12th.
So moved. Second?
Been moved and seconded. Under further discussion on the item, I also have to publicly commend both Jeff and Nicole for a very concise, well-presented summary on the jail project at the 15336 meeting. It was very, very helpful, and you obviously put a lot of work into condensing that into a very informative presentation in a relatively short length of time. Any other discussion on the legislation? If not, the clerk will please call the roll.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schlepper? Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Castleberry?
Yes.
Council President Miller?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Resolution is referred. Resolution 2026-0111.
This item is being held.
Does anybody have any miscellaneous business? Hearing none, the Committee of the Whole is adjourned, and the regular council meeting will convene at promptly 5 o'clock this evening. Thanks very much.